What's up, beautiful people? It is your homegirl, Shameless. I'm up in your building and she's back. I have been gone for just a little wee bit longer than usual. And I've just been focusing on inspiration, art therapy. Yes, girl. Go on my Instagram, find out what the heck I am talking about. But speaking of inspiration, Black Panther, y'all. Yes, I have seen it. I wanted to make this video sooner. I saw it twice and I'm probably gonna see it one more time. But the movie is revolutionary, historical, inspirational, powerful, moving, and they addressed a lot of themes directly or indirectly, and I wanted to talk about some of them here on my channel. This film is important to not just the Black community, but the world at large. It is a unique story that has never been told. Although it is fantasy and it's mystical, it's an action, it is a powerful story, and it's powerful especially for young children to watch and say, I can be this, I can break boundaries, I can be my best me, and I see it out there, therefore I can be that. I'd like to think we can see more stories that are unique like this. You got Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, which is amazing. But there are so many stories that celebrate white power, epicness, and that's great, but let's be inclusive of a variety of people that look different. So Black Panther, you slaying, you killing, you the #1 movie in the world. You already surpassed $700 million in box office ticket sales, and look at it, look at it! Black Panther addresses a lot of themes, too much for one video, so I might even have to do multiple parts to this. But the themes that stood out to me that I want to address is the definition of beauty, celebrating dark skin beauty, tech, because Shuri was serving it, and the relationship between Africans and the Blacks outside of Africa, the definition of beauty. Now, if you guys just do a simple Google search, type in beauty in Google Images, and look at what comes up, that is what the media is celebrating as beautiful. So growing up as a child, I'm looking at outwards to look back inwards and see where I fit in the world. Self-identity is that. It's looking out to look back in and say, oh, I see me. There I am. I'm celebrated. I exist. I'm important. And dark skin beauty is not celebrated the way it needs to be or should be, or as much of it. Black Panther casted powerful women that are strong, that are elegant, that are graceful, and I am so excited to see what impact that has on the younger generation, because you now have inspiration, you have something to dream about, and dreams become reality. If you can see it, you can be it. But wait, Maya, is you Black or not? I am Black and Filipino. I identify as a Black Filipino. I identify as mixed. However, that being said, I feel like some of the loudest voices in the room are sometimes the lightest. The first Black president, the first Black actress to win an Oscar, some people doing powerful Black speeches, they are super light. And I'm just like, girl. The big elephant in the room is they're all mixed. Black Americans are usually mixed with at least 20% European. And I think the privilege that mixed fair people get is access. Whether that access is based on the way they look, their complexion, or their access because of their family. I would say the same for people like Beyonce. Beyonce, the girl's mixed. She has blonde hair and she's fair. Now, people, like I said, are constantly looking out to look back in. And when people look at Beyonce, you can be Black, you can be Latina, you can be Asian, because we can all look at her and see a bit of ourselves in her, I like to think. But she has access because she's appealing to a wider audience. And because she's appealing to a wider audience, she has more privilege. And with more privilege, she can get more bank, okay? That doesn't negate the fact that hard work has gone into her success. Beyonce didn't just kick it back and say, let me just be light and privileged. She worked that much harder to get to where she is. And I realize I have a privilege, I have access that some people don't have based on the color of their skin or maybe their education, because I do think you can bypass certain things if you have education. And I think it's problematic if people are judged based on the color of their skin, if their complexion of their skin. And I think the number one thing that we as a community can do is look beyond complexion. And even people of power, start hiring people that don't look like you. People that have education, understanding, empathy, talent, ability that go beyond their complexion. Because if you want to speak to people that are darker, you have to have an understanding for that. So what I love about Black Panther is it celebrates dark-skinned beauty as powerful, strong, intelligent, graceful. And I know it's gonna make an impact. The next theme Black Panther celebrated was technology. Wakanda is the birthing place of all things tech, which for many reasons speaks to me. On my channel, you guys know I have a tech talk playlist. I love Shuri's character. I love that she was a representation that you can be intelligent, you can be geeking out into these ideas and themes, because again, what does Hollywood tell us? That we're not into that. Now children of color can look at this and say, oh my goodness, I see myself, I can do that. I can dream this, I can be this. And that's part of why I do have Tech Talk on my channel. Not because I want to be a teacher, but because I know as an 18-year-old when I started photography, I didn't see people that looked like me. I was up against 30, 40 plus year old white male photographers, and I got criticized and judged when I went into camera stores. So for me, I knew it was important to celebrate me, because I know a young girl like you, a young boy like you is watching this and saying, wait a minute, I can do this. I can be passionate about this and I can celebrate this. Why? Because Maya is doing it too. And I think 2018 is a magical time to be just that. You no longer have gatekeepers telling you you can't do it. And if they are, they're crazy, because we have access. We have access to technology. We have access to everything is at our fingertips. Social media. We no longer have to watch television or magazines and say we don't exist, because we're there. I see us online, and I'm just so glad that Hollywood is finally taking note and celebrating that, because look at what we're doing. Epicness! Jesus. Next theme, unique stories. What I love about what Hollywood did, they totally set this up for us to win, which was telling the same story over and over and over again. So when Black Panther finally got greenlit to get made, it was a completely new story that we had never seen, and it just was like, you just set that up for an alley-oop. It was amazing, because Hollywood liked to tell the whole story of slavery, the struggle, the lack of, the pain, the suffering of who we were, call it Black history, and end it there. But I know that our history goes beyond arriving here as slaves. It goes back to Africa. And as a teenager, as an adult, I would get so enraged when another slave movie came out, because my last name is Washington, and I hated when people said, oh, Washington, you were a slave. I'm not a slave. My grandmother isn't a slave. My great-grandmother isn't a slave. But I know that that's part of our history, but I know that isn't who I am. And it said, you come from Black excellence. And I know that they told you otherwise, but I'm telling you, this is who you are. Now, being Canadian, American, Filipino, and traveling a lot, I am able to see how Black changes definitions depending on where you go. I do know there is a disconnect between Black Americans and Black Africans. And what Black Panther did was address that disconnect. And I thought it was so beautiful the way in which they did it. 2 years ago, I went to Ghana and Togo, and I was overwhelmed with a sense of, oh, this is the missing piece to the puzzle. And I just want you to experience that. And I think we got a little taste of that in there. When I went to Ghana, I felt home. I felt a sense of home. And I have that same feeling or similar feeling when I go back home to Toronto. These are where my family live. And I see, I see In Black Panther, when Killmonger, he spent his life fighting to get to a certain point so he could have this moment, and it was driven out of rage. And I see that in me, and it's been one of the driving forces of how I got here. That will to keep going and do better and be better. And I channeled it into my art. And there's a lot of things that push me, not just that, but I do see a lot of my younger self in his character, a lot of my frustration that I never articulated out loud to people that didn't look like me. I have a lot of stories and things I want to address, and I've taken a long beat off of YouTube because I'm trying to figure out a way to say that doesn't involve this. Stop crying, Maya. Okay, one of the questions I got on social media was, how do you feel about the fact that makeup companies don't cater to our shades? I only need one foundation. I don't need 50 of them. And I think that becomes a problem with consumerism, but that's just me. I don't need every brand to make every shade that fits my needs. I just need to support the brands that do. Because one, who owns these companies? They don't have to do anything. But if they do it, great. If they don't, they're lost. I got this really great question on Snapchat. What is colorism? It was coined by the author, poet, writer Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple. And it's a book turned into a film, both amazing and great. But colorism has to do with the complexion within one race. So the more fair you are, the more privilege you have, and the darker you are, the more prejudice and negative connotations you have. You're less than, you're ugly, you're not beautiful. Now, colorism exists not just in the Black community. It exists in the Asian community, in South Asian community. It exists in all races. And the term race, okay? That is to imply this is a competition, and it is not. Okay, did you ever have trouble when you were growing up identifying and feeling like you have to choose one side of yourself? I did. Growing up, well, one, I didn't realize I was a race. I was just my mom's daughter. I had no idea that even existed. It's not until you go to school and you start to learn and people start to teach you things. I have a bunch of cousins that were all the same age, and I think they were the first ones to tell me, you're not us. And I grew up in my Filipino household. So that's when I was like, Irks, I'm not one of you guys. And then I would go to school, and I would remember my mom coming to school with me, and everyone would freak out because they're like, oh, your mom, are you adopted? Or like, your mom looks different than you. And that's when I realized I look different from my mom. So I was like, I'm different in the home. I'm just my mom's daughter. I cook like a Filipino. I understand Bisaya. I feel like I had to pick when I was young because everyone was telling me I'm not them. So as a young child, I just thought I was Black, even though I knew I was mixed. And mind you, I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada, 80s, okay? So it's different than it is now, and I feel really old saying that. But at the time, I wasn't around that many mixed people that were mixed with Black. And I do feel it made a huge impression on who I am today. And my experiences as a child, I was told that I was Black, I was dark-skinned. Yes, you might find this funny, but I'm dark-skinned in my family. So that's my experience, which is not the same as every other mixed person. They might be the most fair and they are perceived differently. But me, I'm dark, Black, ugly, was told that, and I had a lot of kind of just programming that I had to like undo, which I was able to do in high school. Because now going into high school, I'm finally not the only Black person. Now everyone I'm around is all Filipino, Italians, Caribbean girls. And that's who kind of embraced me. And because Caribbean people are mixed, I was just with that. But then the funny thing is I'm not. So then I have to explain I'm half Black American. They're like, yeah, but from where? Jamaica? I'm like, no. They're like, Ghana? I'm like, no, they're just like generational Americans. And so that was the thing that I had to deal with, which is not a big thing to deal with. So all that to say, I did feel that I had to pick. but I am older and now I identify as a Black Filipino mixed woman. Which female Black historical figure do you look up to and why? Honestly, growing up in the 80s, I looked up to Grace Jones. She was my everything. I was just like, oh my God. Actually, speaking of which, no wonder I'm so connected to Black Panther. I just thought she was so beautiful, so powerful, so fierce. And if you guys know me, you know I love me a fierce moment. Who else did I look up to? I mean, musicians, Whitney Houston, SWVs, 702. I also looked up to Lucy Liu and Tia Carrera. Tia Carrera especially. I remember when Wayne's World came out, I was like, yes! She looks like my family. And low-key kind of like me with like hair laid and lighter. All of that to say, whenever I saw something that spoke to me, regardless of what they looked like me or my family, it made me feel like, there I am, there I am. Have you ever found that being mixed race has impacted your opportunities for sponsorships, collaborations, positively and or negatively? Yes, because y'all are watching me. So I turn to you and ask you, why are you watching me? I have over 1 million subscribers. Are you watching me because of my complexion? Are you watching me because you can relate to me for tech, beauty, lifestyle, inspiration, God? That is something that I think you guys have to address. Because I have such a wide audience, yes, the sponsorships and the brands come knocking on my door because of you. But I do think a lot of the events that I'm invited to, I will say, have one to do with my impact because of you. So thank you. And two, to do with my look, for sure. I can't even act like that isn't a thing. Because every time, these commercials, especially back in the day when I used to do commercials, when they did cast a Black girl, it was a Black girl who had curly hair that could like do all of that with. I can't do it right now, but you know what I mean. Versus a dark-skinned Black girl who wore her hair natural. So I did recognize that. And I actually had conversations with my friends like, they did it again. They hired a watery Black. I recognize that, but I recognize my privilege comes from the ability to relate to a lot of people. So not only can I relate to Blacks, Filipinos, mixed, and mixed has a huge audience and demographic, people like you. Also, when I shaved my head, all of a sudden I was attracting balding men. When I started talking about tech, I started to attract more men. When I started to talk about my hair, more girls with curly hair. So I just have the ability to appeal to more than one audience. That being said, you don't have to look a certain way. Like you can have that based on education, family members, or friends. So I am a firm believer in getting out of your comfort zone. Y'all know about this. Having lived in 4 different cities and traveled the world, that has helped me relate to people that don't look like me. So I feel like my work ethic, my set of beliefs, my interests, I share all of that with you, which in turn has allowed me to have a broad audience. And I can't speak for all mixed women, like their privilege. Do you feel like people who aren't Black, Latinos, whites, Asians, etc., don't claim to be Black, piggyback on Black culture and more recently the term Black girl magic? To me, the first thing I think of when I read that is cultural appropriation. I feel we're all piggybacking off of something if you're trying to get ahead. Do I think it's right or wrong? I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm not going to tell you that if you do that, nothing is going to happen. If you appropriate a culture, I understand the frustration with the culture that's being appropriated. But that being said, do you. Like, it's your life. Let people live their life the way they want to live it. If a guy wants to wear a skirt, I'm not going to tell him otherwise. If a girl wants to dress like a boy, do you. I think the best thing you can do is just that. But be aware of the choices that you make, i.e., I have friends that are drag queens and they live in rough neighborhoods. If you walk home like that, that's fine. But know that there are people that are going to be triggered by that and your safety can be compromised. but just be aware of how people are going to react to the choices that you make in life. How are we able to sympathize with those of different shades and backgrounds, as well as being open to conversations about our different backgrounds, ethnicities? I think you said it, which is sympathize, empathize with other people, put yourself in their position, try to think the way they think, and try to abandon whatever sets of beliefs and judgments you have. When I have conversations with my friends, and I'm so glad I have so many types of friends, so many diverse ethnic friends and family, when they tell me their grievances, I just listen and I ask questions and I try to abandon my judgments, because I'm more curious to learn than I am to hold on to my opinions against them. That being said, I can be very politically correct on this channel, and behind closed doors, I could be another person. My family, myself included, say ignorant things. That's just a reality. We're always gonna say things that are not perfect. Just try to be understanding. How do you find a balance embracing all of your different cultures? Is there a balance at all, or do you find yourself embracing one over the other? I mean, when I'm home, I'm with my Filipino family. When I'm here in the US, I don't have my family, and most people look at me and they just say I'm Black. Most Filipinos that aren't my family don't know that I'm Filipino, and it's not because I'm hiding it, it's just because I look a certain way. I do my best to balance them both, and I definitely don't try to hide who I am. Ooh, have I ever had discussions with my mom about my Blackness? Kinda, sort of. The good thing about my mom is she never really looked at things in terms of race around me. My mom is so busy trying to raise 2 kids by herself that she could care less about whatever race. She has like more pressing matters to attend to. But I do remember when I was young, my mom said, "Huy, Maya, you're not full Black, you're mixed. Don't you forget that." I don't know, maybe I was like on this whole pro-Black thing, I don't know. Because I feel like as young people, especially in Toronto, which is super diverse, we're just constantly trying to figure out where we fit into this whole thing. And because I wasn't Filipino, I was told I wasn't. I was told I was Black, so I was like, yeah, Black. My last name's Washington, I'm Black. The world treats me like this. But it was a good reality check from my mom to be like, "Hoy, you're not that. You're mixed." And I'm like, all right, I am, aren't I? But speaking of which, my mom is, I love her to death. When I was young, she permed her hair so she could have curly hair, so she could look like me and my brother. Like, I love my mom for that. I didn't realize how important it was then, but I see that now because I never really hated my hair growing up. A lot of people, like, especially here in the US, you're told to relax your hair. I didn't have that growing up. My mom didn't say, if anything, she's like, she loved my curls and she wanted to have the same thing. So she got the issues using the permy curl box. Do you still see color, and when did that stop for you? How did you embrace it or take ownership when you felt adversity or animosity? I do still see color, but I try not to live my life based off of it. I'm more attracted to people that share the same beliefs as me, people that are out here. And when I say beliefs, I mean living a fearless life, trying to be a better person, trying to grow, trying to help themselves and other people around them. I'm attracted to that. So whatever that looks like is the people I like to be around. But I'm not a blind fool that doesn't see what's happening. And I think because my perspective has so many sides to it, like I see things through a Canadian lens, through an American lens, through a world lens, having traveled and knowing what that Black experience is like in Africa, West Africa, Togo, Ghana, and even the Philippines. This might sound shocking, but there are Black Filipinos and Black Asians and Black people in other parts of the world. There's so many different perspectives. Now, this is a loaded conversation, too much for one video and too much for one person. So let me know in the comments below what questions you have. I got a lot of questions that this video has to come to an end at some point. So I'll address it. I'll have a conversation with other people that represent different experiences versus just me. So let me know in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Turn the notifications on because your boo is not on the tube like that. But at the end of the day, do not dim your light for someone else to shine. Be the best you can be, because you are a child of God and he does not judge you based on the color of your skin. He looks into your heart. So I'm all about self-development, self-growth, and pushing through all of that. It's easy to get caught up in the noise, but focus in on the things that are important and that matter. And whatever frustration you have, i.e. the frustration I have, channel it into proactive work, into creation. Wrap this up, Maya. Until next time, remember to do you, be you, and stay true, boo. Be shameless. Be fierce. Wakanda forever.